drunk tourist waved a laser pointer at the Queen's Guard, mocking centuries of tradition, laughing as if untouchable. But when the Guardsman moved, just once, it wasn't to flinch. What followed was a quiet warning and a viral disaster that left the tourist crushed, both figuratively and literally. But before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We share the untold stories, secrets, and traditions of the British Guards every day. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. It was a typical day at Buckingham Palace. The sky was a muted gray, with the palace standing tall and timeless against the bustling backdrop of eager tourists. The Queen's Guard stood in their iconic scarlet uniforms, motionless, like statues carved from stone. One guardsman, towering and steadfast, had perfected the art of ignoring the swarming crowd. Families posed for photos, children giggled, and the occasional daredevil tourist tried to provoke a reaction. But nothing ever worked. The guardsman had seen it all, or so he thought. Then, a small red dot appeared on his chest. At first, he barely registered it. Perhaps it was a trick of the sunlight. But the dot moved, jittering across his pristine uniform like an unwelcome insect. He didn't flinch, yet a thought crossed his mind with dry sarcasm. Great! A sniper with the aim of a toddler, exactly what my day was missing. But this wasn't a sniper. This was something far worse. A drunk tourist with zero respect and even less self-awareness. Meet Dave. Mid-30s, sunburnt, and wobbling on legs that betrayed an overindulgence in cheap beer. His face was redder than the guardsman's coat, and in his hand, he clutched a laser pointer like it was some sort of royal scepter. To Dave, he wasn't just any tourist. He was the tourist here to bend the traditions of the Queen's Guard to his whim. "Oi, mate," he slurred, aiming the laser at the guardsman's chest like it was a toy. "You gonna move? Or are you just one of those wax dummies?" The crowd noticed. Some giggled nervously. Others raised their phones, eager for a viral moment. Dave's confidence grew. He waved the laser higher, letting the red dot hover over the guardsman's face. "Come on, give us a smile. You can't be that boring." His words dripped with mockery, his posture radiating entitlement. The guardsman didn't react, not even a blink. But inside, his thoughts churned. I spent years training to defend this country, and now I'm a drunk's carnival act? Brilliant. Meanwhile, Dave basked in his perceived power. To him, the guardsman wasn't a symbol of tradition. He was an accessory for Dave's entertainment. After all, wasn't that why they stood here? For him, the paying tourist, to poke and prod at will. The crowd murmured. A mix of discomfort and curiosity filled the air. Some found it amusing, others cringed. One elderly woman muttered, "Disgraceful," but was drowned out by the digital clicks of recording phones. And Dave? He thrived on the attention. Grinning like a kid with a new toy, he announced, "Bet you 10 quid I can make him flinch." But as the red dot danced mockingly over the guardsman's face, the stoic figure remained unshaken, a living embodiment of dignity in the face of modern absurdity. The silent, immovable guard versus the drunken, chaotic tourist. It was a battle of tradition against disrespect, and the tension was building. The guardsman's thoughts whispered again. "Go on, Dave. Let's see how far your stupidity takes you." Dave, emboldened by the guardsman's unwavering stillness, decided that the moment deserved a grander spectacle. He turned to the growing crowd, his voice rising above the murmurs of tourists snapping photos and muttering in disbelief. "All right, folks, who's got 10 quid? Bet I can make him flinch if I aim at his nose." The crowd's reaction was a mix of gasps and nervous chuckles. Parents pulled their kids closer. Older tourists shook their heads, and a few bold ones raised their phones, ready to capture the unfolding embarrassment. Someone muttered, "What a disgrace," but Dave either didn't hear it or chose to ignore it. With the confidence of a man who believes the world revolves around him, Dave pointed the laser directly at the guardsman's nose. The red dot hovered like an unwelcome insect. The guardsman didn't blink. He didn't twitch. He was as immovable as the palace behind him. Dave, of course, took this as a challenge. "Look at him," he sneered. "Must be glued to the spot. Bet his contract says he can't even sneeze without permission." His laughter echoed awkwardly, but a few in the crowd chuckled nervously, unsure whether to join in or back away. Undeterred by the guardsman's stoicism, Dave announced, "All right, Plan B." The crowd collectively tensed. Plan B? This could only get worse. Dave stumbled toward the guardsman's horse, his laser pointer still in hand. The majestic animal, standing tall and serene, exuded an aura of quiet dignity, something Dave utterly lacked. "Here, horsey, horsey, let's see if you've got a sense of humor, yeah?" He waved the laser near the horse's hooves, giggling at his own absurdity. The horse, unfazed, stood still. Its deep eyes seemed to convey one thought. "Really? This is the best you've got?" Meanwhile, the guardsman's inner monologue fired up. "Go ahead, Dave. Annoy the Queen's horse. I'm sure this plan will end brilliantly for you." The crowd whispered louder now. Phones were aimed, children were pulled back, and yet Dave, oblivious, carried on. If only he knew how close he was to becoming the punchline of his own disaster. Just as Dave crouched down to aim the laser closer to the horse's face, the guardsman finally moved. It wasn't a grand gesture. There were no dramatic proclamations. The guardsman simply adjusted his rifle slightly, a quiet, deliberate movement that sent a clear message. Enough. But Dave, in his drunken state, misinterpreted the movement entirely. "He moved," Dave yelled triumphantly. "I win." In his excitement, Dave stood up too quickly and tripped over his own feet. The laser pointer flew out of his hand and landed directly under the horse's hooves. The horse, with impeccable timing, stomped down on the laser pointer, crushing it to pieces. The crowd erupted in laughter. Dave, now on the ground, looked up in confusion. "Oi, that's my laser." The guardsman, without breaking his stoic demeanor, glanced down ever so slightly and spoke for the first time that day. "Not anymore." Dave, now thoroughly humiliated, tried to brush off the incident. All right, it was just a bit of fun," he muttered, dusting himself off. "No harm done, yeah?" But the guardsman wasn't finished. With perfect timing, he raised his arm and pointed to a nearby police officer who had been watching the entire fiasco from the sidelines. The officer approached, arms crossed, shaking his head. "Sir," the officer said, "would you care to explain why you were harassing the Queen's Guard and disturbing public order?" Dave stammered. It was just a joke." The officer didn't look amused. "Right, well, let's see if you're still laughing down at the station." As Dave was escorted away, the crowd gave a round of polite applause. Some tourists even lined up to take photos with the guardsman, who resumed his stoic pose as if nothing had happened. Inside, however, his inner monologue added one last sarcastic remark. Another day, another drunk fool learning the hard way that some traditions aren't meant to be messed with. The video of the incident went viral. Dave became an internet sensation, not for his antics, but for the stone-cold reaction of the guardsman and the heroic stomp of the Queen's horse. The video was titled, "Mess with the Queen's Guard, You'll Regret It." As for the guardsman, he remained as unflappable as ever, a quiet symbol of tradition in a world full of chaos. But deep down, he knew one thing for sure. Never underestimate the comedic value of a well-timed stomp. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like and let us know in the comments which guard tradition you'd like us to cover next. See you in the next video.